clicked on a video that says what we will fix, but your stupid title does little for clicks. A YouTuber, you will never make a solid run. My dear viewer, this is just for fun. Who are you to judge the past? Shut up, scrub, or I'll kick your... Welcome to Fixing Yu-Gi-Oh, where we use the power of hindsight and game design to fix the many problems that Yu-Gi-Oh had in its early days. I'm your host, Prunk, and today we are fixing Labyrinth of Nightmare. Released in March of 2003, this is the first new set of Yu-Gi-Oh for the year, and oh boy, did they let us down. I mean, the set has some good cards, but a lot of them are sinkers. Let's look at it. They brought out jams from season 2. In the anime, they were pretty cool. The mask cards look amazing, but are mostly unworthy of playing. Destiny board was horrible till we fixed it in the last episode, because we do feel like, well, it should be better in Veros Servant. But overall, why is this set even called Labyrinth of Nightmare? Nothing really feels like it belongs in a maze in this set until now. Folks, we have been building up for this for weeks, and now it is time to finally fix Gate Guardians. So this has been a big project, and I'm going to create a few cards for this set to make sure that they feel like boss monsters. And to be honest, I actually have two different fixes. I have a 2023 fix, and I have a year 2003 fix. So I eventually want to do videos based on archetypes and what they need now for modern day Yu-Gi-Oh! And if you're interested in that, please let me know in the comments. But otherwise, we are fixing these cards for the time they are first printed. So we need to remember that creating these new cards, we need to make sure we're matching up the current power level of the game, because we don't want to just crazy skyrocket a lot of these metas. So first off, we should really set some goals for this project. We want to be able to consistently summon Suijin, Kazijin, and Sangha of the Thunder. They are the three Gate Guardians. They're combined into one massive Gate Guardian, and that's really where they get their namesake. Second off, the monsters in the Labyrinth directly support the Gate Guardian in some sort of form or way, or have some kind of tie to it, at least like through lore and thematics. And in the show, the Gate Guardians need to be able to defend each other from battle and card effects. That's basically what they do in the show, but otherwise they just prevent themselves from being attacked and destroyed with their current effects. And it's nothing like it was in the show. So all of this is going to need to get fixed in order for Gate Guardians to actually be a playable archetype. Let's look at the original Gate Guardian. You need to tribute summon Suijin, Kazujin, and Sangha to summon this card from your hand. Has anyone ever done this? Ever? Like, how? The only thing I can imagine is milling them all in your graveyard and special summoning them with Soul Charge, then tributing them off when Gate Guardian's in your hand. I was hoping it would be possible when Pendulum cards came out. I actively really tried to make a Gate Guardian deck playable in Pendulums, and I could not do it. So if you have a Pendulum Gate Guardian deck, please let me know in the comments, because I was really trying. But nobody is getting off this boss monster, and even if you do, your reward is a 3,750 attack beat stick that loses to Fissure. We're going to fix that. Very first thing we need to do is we're going to need to fix the names. Suijin, Kazujin, and Sangha all have the name Gate Guardian before their name. We are creating that archetype. So it is Gate Guardian Suijin, Gate Guardian Kazujin, Gate Guardian Sangha. We're cutting off the thunder. Come on, it doesn't even fit. Second, now all these monsters have 2,500 attack, and you'll see why later. But there was not really a reason. Why do we have a 24, 25, 26 monster with all the same exact effects? It was kind of lame. Now let's look at Kazujin. When their new effect is going to completely replace the reduced by 0. So Kazujin, once per turn, when a Guardian monster would be targeted by an effect, negate that effect. So this is going to help prevent from getting Maneater bugged. It's going to help preventing a few different card effects that would normally target. And Kazujin at this point is one of the weaker ones, but it's still good and it has its own unique effect. Suijin is once per turn when a guardian monster is targeted by an attack, you can make that attack of the attacking monster 0. So it's not just protecting itself, it's protecting its allies and the other guardian monsters. Making sure that, hey, Suijin's on the field, he can't be my guardians cannot be destroyed by battle because you're going to lose this fight now. Sangha, when a guardian monster would be destroyed by a card effect, negate that effect. So now we have a non-targeted card, we have a non-battle card, and we have a non-destroyed by card effect cards. All three of these, if they're on the field, you're probably going to win the game as a standalone effect because that is insanely strong if you manage to get all three onto the field. But you're probably not. You might be lucky to get two of them on the field, but even if you just get the one, it's a really strong card by itself, and it does have its built-in protection, so you could even splash them into other themed decks if you really wanted to, because they would protect themselves as a Guardian monster. But if you're playing the other Guardians, it gets a lot better. Where if I'm playing any of those other small guys, Guardian of the Labyrinth, for example, well, this guy's protected by Suijin or protected by Sangha a little bit. So it's really cool, and I like it. I think it fits the theme. It means they're all protecting each other, and they all have a little bit more of a unique effect, even though they're all sharing the same stat line. They are all different attributes, so they could be splashed in specific deck types, along with our old field spells, but fields at this point are being a little bit more power crept. But we've made it over that first year mark where fields were really good for that first year. So I'm okay with leaving out the fields a little bit, but now it is actually optional if I wanted to play field spells or those field cards. I have a cool boss monster in Kazajin if I'm playing all wins. And look, I am fully aware that if you do manage to get two of these out on the field, you are at a huge advantage. But back early Yu-Gi-Oh, it was not easy to get two tribute monsters out onto the field at once. Chances are, if you're doing that, you're already winning, so it's not accelerating your game state. You're just snowballing more than you already were winning. So I think it's fine. I don't think it's going to happen that commonly, but when it does, you're probably going to win, and that's okay. You just tributed off four monsters to summon these two guys that protect each other in some ways, and they still have a weakness. So I think that's fine. Now, everyone's probably saying, well, what about the third Gate Guardian? We need to tribute them off to make a Gate Guardian. Guys, I think you know where this is coming. Gate Guardian is a fusion card. Like, you're combining three cards into one card. I think we can say safely that, hey, this should probably have been a fusion card in the first place. It was a really bad fusion. It would be a really bad fusion card if we kept it as it is, so let's play with it a little bit. And I think I have a really good idea of what we can do because at a 3750 vanilla beat stick, basically, we need to make sure this boss feels like a boss. And there's a lot of you need to basically be playing all three of those monsters, and you don't have to now. If as a fusion monster, all you need is polymerization, but it is still a four card combo. So here's my pitch. This card can only be fusion summoned by using the following materials: Suijin, Kazajin, and Sangha. We don't want people to be able to cheat this out with other cards in the future. We want to make sure that, hey, I have to fusion summon using those three cards. So it's still a little bit, it's still difficult to get out, but at least now if you have those four cards, you can get it out. And compared to when it was just a monster effect, it had to have been on the field. All three of those cards had to be tribute summoned off the field. So we've greatly reduced the trouble of bringing this thing out. The next thing I want to do is I want to reduce its stat line. I want this card to overall be a 4K beater at full strength, and I think what we can do is have this card at a 2500 or normal stat line, and it gains 500 for each guardian that's attached to it. And the easiest way we can track on which guardians are there is by counters. So when this card is fusion summoned, place 3 guardian counters onto this card. This card gains 500 attack for each counter. Pretty cool. Okay, so he goes from 25 to 3 to 35 to 4K. So it is a 4K beater with these counters on the field. But what do these counters do? Well, just like in the show, we're going to be chipping away at this monster. It is a big monster. In order for us to defeat it, we're going to have to take it apart piece by piece. And that's kind of the goal with this. So once per turn, or just, we don't even have to make it a once per turn. You may remove a counter from this card when it is attacked by a monster, targeted by a card effect, or destroyed by a card effect. If you do, negate the action and remove a counter. You may only negate each of the above effects once while Gate Guardian is on the field. So again, you guys could probably figure out a better wording for it, but overall what this does is, hey, I can negate an attack coming at me. I can negate a destruction effect coming at me. I can negate a targeted effect by me. So I have 3 ways to negate it, but I can only use each of those once. I am using Sanga's effect. It's gone. I'm a little weaker. I'm using Suijin's effect. It's gone. I'm a little bit weaker. I am using Kazujin's effect. It is gone, and I am weaker. So you are chipping away at this boss monster, making it feel weaker and weaker. And it's a project for your opponent to try and take down. And if they don't, they have a 4K beat stick that is going to run at them in the face, with the game's realistically first Omni kind of card. So this card has basically 2 effects and a summoning condition. The summoning condition being polymerization with all 3 of those Gate Guardians, and the 2 effects gain stats for each counter that's on the field, and second effect is remove those counters when something bad happens. It makes the game and this boss monster feel a little bit like a puzzle of like, oh crap, I only have compulsory right now, and I need to try and compulse it. Well, okay, it's wasting compulse, but now at least its stat line is a little weaker, so now I might be able to beat over it. Well, okay, it's gonna pop or negate that attack. All right, it's now a little bit weaker, but now I have to now I can beat over it because it used that effect once already. So like we get these counterplay aspects out of the Gate Guardian, and it feels like you are actively trying to take down a boss monster at this point. We're not done yet, because these cards are still tough and great, but I honestly think this is a cool fix, but we need Para and Dox. The Guardians need servants in order to serve them. So let's look at some of these vanilla cards that we've seen in the last sets that otherwise aren't going to do anything. We got Guardian of the Labyrinth, Labyrinth Wall, Guardian of the Throne Room, and Protector of the Throne. Now, even though those last 2 aren't necessarily Guardian cards, they're guarding something, and one of them is protecting something. So I want to kind of play off that. At the end of the maze, why are the Gate Guardians there? They are protecting the Throne Room. And inside that throne room is the last line of the defense with the guardian of that throne room. And then inside there is the protector of the throne, the queen of this maze, the queen of this realm, and she has something that you want. But in order to get it, you need to have been able to conquer the Gate Guardians. Now, I also flashed 3 pieces of artwork, which is from actually my own card game that I've been developing, and we're going to kind of steal those. And this is something the one time I'm probably going to really push, hey, I'm making my own real custom cards to make this work. We are going to have an Acolyte of Suijin, Sangha, and Kazujin, and each of them is going to have this effect. When this card is normal or special summoned, add 1 Guardian with the same attribute from your deck to hand. So this one will end up searching out Kazujin. This one will end up searching out Suijin. They are matching those archetypes, and these things can be kind of cheesed out a little bit by playing recruiters. And so we're getting some support from the Mystic Tomato, and we're getting support from Mother Grizzly. Not Mystic Tomato, I want a UFO Turtle, because there's not going to be a dark one. They're all searchers to get out the big monster, but that's not all. This card can be used as the full tribute summon for a Gate Guardian monster. So we made our tribute fodder. The game desperately needs it. I've been pitching at it, but I think these cards specifically deserve it. They have their servants, and overall, I think they should have those little acolytes. There are people that are tending the maze, and they want to bring out the boss monster when their maze is at threat. So this is where I feel like those tribute fodder cards could really come into play, and the fact that they search out the pieces of the Gate Guardian will make them a little bit more situational, where they will only want to be played with this type. But I mean, all archetypes aren't meant to be played forever. They're definitely going to be power crept, and Gate Guardians won't be great forever unless we go with my other pitch. I got ideas if you guys want to see it. Again, like and subscribe. We'll say if I get 50 subscribers off this video, then I will show you guys the more modern day Gate Guardian support. But I think making them more deck specific is fine, and again, it does kind of allow us to avoid some unintended use that there could be some cards in the future. So as much as I've been pitching, hey, I really want attribute fodder into the game, I don't think it's right overall yet, and I think they can be abused. So this is specifically for this archetype. All right, so Labyrinth Wall. Uh, this is now a field spell, guys. It states, the way I look at this is you're going through the maze, and the game and the show really missed the mark. In the show, they have to go through the maze in order to get to the monsters. So why would this card be any different? So my pitch for Labyrinth Wall, while this card is on the field, monsters cannot attack the turn they are summoned. They have to make it through the Labyrinth first. The secondary effect, except for Guardian monsters. Guardian and Labyrinth monsters to specify. They know the shortcuts. They know the maze. This is their maze. They live through it. So we are slowing down the gameplay and making this deck more control because hey, you can't just beat over my tribute monster or like so on. I have a turn to protect this from battle. You might want to use something against it if you don't want my Suijin coming out because otherwise this card is going to survive and it's going to complete the ritual to summon out my Suijin, which is going to be a bigger threat for you. So it is making these decks and cards a lot better because it's slowing down the game pace. Something that early Yu-Gi-Oh just consistently starts escalating up the game, getting faster, faster, faster. The game isn't so much as set and pass anymore. We are getting to your normal summon is a lot and it needs to do something else. So when you take away that normal summon, if they can't attack this weaker monster, well, we've slowed it down and this is more about control. That maze should feel like it's in control. I think this card is great. I mean, it basically does the same thing as what it did previously. It's not a 3K wall, but that means your opponent can hit you directly with this thing on the field anyways. Now it's just slowing down the game pace, but they have the option to hit you down. So if anything, it could have been technically a nerf. But I think this card will see a lot more play. And it's something that's going to be really cool in the future as a floodgate card of I need to slow down this board. You are keep attacking me way too quickly. I'm going to side in Labyrinth Wall. This becomes a lot better of a card where it's not just a good card in this archetype. It is just a good side deck card. I want to build this Labyrinth on the field because I don't want you attacking me right away all the time. Could this card be really strong? Yes. It is a worry that that would probably make this card onto the ban list in the future, but I think it's healthy for what this deck is trying to do. I don't think it would really be hit for a long time, but it is essentially a floodgate card that will get limited at some point. And I think that's fine. I think the game definitely needs this. Summoning Sickness is just not something that Yu-Gi-Oh is known for. Like, and this card basically implements Summoning Sickness into the game. Well, one-sided, because if you're playing Guardian monsters, it's not going to affect you. I love that. Alright, let's talk about Magical Labyrinth and Wall Shadow. This card is basically the direct fusion to get Wall Shadow into the game. However, it's pretty unnecessary as it stands, because, well, Wall Shadow is clearly a fusion monster. I don't understand why they did not make so many of these cards fusions, but it is an easy fix. But even though you are fusing the labyrinth into the wall monster into the labyrinth, and we have made combos where you could polymerization a spell card with a monster card. I don't think that works for this card. So I think Wall Shadow is it could just be taken out as a card, to be honest with you. I do have a pitch to keep the integrity of Wall Shadow. I want Wall Shadow to basically live in the labyrinth. So if the labyrinth is destroyed, so is Wall Shadow. So Magical Labyrinth. Equip only to a Shadow Ghoul. In case you didn't know, Wall Shadow is Shadow Ghoul inside the wall. So equip only to a Shadow Ghoul you control and equip it to this card. While this card is equipped, it cannot be targeted by battle. This does not prevent your opponent from attacking you directly. You may now attack your opponent directly. Destroy this card if the Labyrinth Wall is not on the field. Let's recap this. We have to bring a tribute summon, or you need to cheese them out in some other way. But we now have a monster that gains attack points for the monsters in the graveyard, that is untargetable by battle, and can attack your opponent's life points directly. At the cost of Labyrinth Wall really needs to be on the field. It is strong. I don't feel like it's broken. It's basically what tunes we're going to be doing in the OG, but this requires a lot more setup. It requires Labyrinth Wall, Magical Library. So it does require 2 cards to attack your opponent directly, compared to the 1 card of Toon World. Now, other side of the coin for this is that, well, it is still attacking your opponent directly on the turn it activates, so it can end a game very abruptly with this. So I get that, but I still don't think that I think it's still a two card combo in order to attack you directly. And if you're this late into the game, early on, keep in mind it's only attack stat is only like 1600, so like it might be a 2K direct attack kind of thing card if you had that. I mean, a normal monster like Dark Hole Jiraigumo is going to do that just the same. So I think it's fine with that effect, but making the Magical Labyrinth a standalone equip card that can only be equipped to Shadow Ghoul and just eliminating Wall Shadow as a card altogether is, I think, better. Throne cards. So we looked at these other vanillas, and first off, the vanilla is Guardian of the Labyrinth. This guy's a solid vanilla warrior, and honestly, he can stay vanilla. I would only want to change his text to instead of him guarding the entrance to the Netherworld, he's guarding the throne room and its treasures. Well, we mentioned it. There's treasures in the throne room. Then you say, huh? Well, what about those other two cards then? Well, before we get into those treasures, let's look at Guardian of the Throne Room. So this is something I would actually want to make a level 5 or something. It needs to be a little bit stronger in my opinion, but we can make this card gains 300 attack for each Guardian in the graveyard, meaning that this robot is about to get thick, but only after you got those other Guardians into the graveyard. So it kind of gives it the feel of, hey, you made it through the maze pretty cool. You made it through all the defenses, but this is the boss that's at the end of the boss. Um, this could either start off as like a level 2 or 3 and have like a normal stat line for that, or it could start off at like a 2000 wall at a level 5. I think like a 2 or 3, and then it just being stronger for each guardian that hit the grave. Because if you do this guy out, I mean, 300. You've got all three gate guardians out. Let's say that's 900. So we can have this guy around like a 1400 plus the 9. That's 23, and that's pretty good. I mean, give you a really beefy boy, but that's I like it. I think something along those lines is fine because if you draw it early on, it's a useless card. But if you draw it late game, it gets a lot better. So I think that's a balanced card, and I'm happy with that. So I'd say let's make it around 14 or 1300, gain 300 attack for each guardian in the graveyard, and put this at like a 2 or 3 level monster, and I think that's fine. But finally, let's talk about Protector of the Throne. You made it through the maze, and waiting for you is the Queen of the Maze, the Protector of the Throne. So we made it to the end of the Labyrinth. My pitch for this card would really just say banish 3 Guardian cards from your graveyard to draw a card. This is not a once per turn effect. I like the aspect of, hey, I went through and they got to the end of my Guardians, they defeated my Gate Guardians, they defeated this, and I bring out this card, and I get to draw cards. That's my prize. I mean, we made it to the end of the Labyrinth with my own deck, and so I can draw a few cards to hopefully close out this game at this point. Again, these other last 2 cards, they're in the throne room. They are the last line of defense. Protector of the Throne, just banishing 3 cards early on, like that's gonna be very difficult to achieve just to draw 1 card in the future. Like I think we got, and why are we picking 3? Well, there's 3 Guardians, and I do feel like the deck will probably have a little bit of a consistency issue. Um, so if you are getting those graveyard or those guardians into your graveyard, you're likely bricking and stuff. So like this deck does need to get some draw power for consistency. A lot of this is fixed with this card, and again, it is an end game card to help close out. If you manage, you're supposed to be able to get out your cards in theory. You should be able to get your recruiters. Recruiters get into Suijin and stuff like that. The maze is stalling so that way those cards can be tribute summoned if they need to be, or they're getting into your hand so that way you can play polymerization and get the big boss monster out as well. These last 2 cards are there to be that last line of defense. If you haven't been able to close them out with those Gate Guardians, then these guys get a lot stronger at the end game, but they are really weak in the early game. And we can give them weaker stats, and I think that's fine. I would still be playing them in theme and in archetype with those other cards. But overall, I think this just fixed a lot of issues that Gate Guardians could have, and we can give it a really cool, unique archetype that I'm actually really proud of. And I don't feel like any of this is really busted in the context of 2003. So let's recap everything. Here are the pros. Well, it's got a built, the Gate Guardians have now a built-in floodgate with Labyrinth Wall. It has early Omni negates with the Gate Guardians in the sense of it can't be destroyed by battle, can't be destroyed by card effect, and so on, but that is only a one-time action. It has acolytes to search out its boss monsters, which can also be brought out by recruiters, so it has overlapping themes with other cards that could be played in the deck. Polymerization means you can splash in other monsters to help support. I mean, we've buffed a lot of other fusion cards, and polymerization is going to be played in this deck to get my Gate Guardian out, but I might want to play like Flame Swordsman or something. I don't know what would be good in this set. The cons: this deck does require playing a lot of high level monsters, and a lot of their cards do require setup. This is still going to be a bricky deck. This is not going to. I still can't imagine this being a meta contention because the game does reward a lot more fast-paced gameplay. But this is definitely a good, solid control strategy. Also, those high-level monsters, like this is what they do. Like they're there to help close out those games. If you get those big monsters out, then you're probably going to win. But without them, a lot of these guardians and other cards are really weak. You're pretty much relying on recruiters and floaters to like really deal some chip damage, I guess, in the meantime. You might possibly be able to fix it with some burn damage, but I don't feel like that's what this deck can really do the best. So we have our archetype, and it fits the theme. It makes you feel like you're playing in a maze. I truly consider Gate Guardians fixed, at least in the context of 2003. Again, I got good ideas for 2023, but I don't know if that's worth it for you guys. But guys, thanks so much for watching this. I am so happy. And oh, wait, what do you mean there's more? Dude, this bit took forever. Okay, yeah, I mentioned masks and revival jam. Nobody cares about those. Fine. All right, let's fix the rest of Labyrinth Nightmare. Okay, so apparently we're not done with this yet. So let's talk about those masks. Um, I mentioned the masks earlier. They are super cool looking, but they are mostly bad. Like, I like the idea that they are particle artifacts, and they give you really cool effects, but they kind of drain your life. The masks have a power, but at a cost. So we're gonna play off this. All the masks should have some kind of burn side effect. Mask of Restrict. Neither player can tribute cards. Um, this is a great card, and it's really needed for the metagame. This is an amazing side deck. Monarchs become a big threat in the future, and this card straight up counters the new Gate Guardian support we just created. So this is a really important card. With that said, this card should not be a mask. I just don't want this card to be a mask. It doesn't really make sense, and I feel like we can restrict people another way. But I want that burn effect still, but I don't want to have you burning life points for this more situational card. If I'm losing 500 life points just to prevent you from tribute summoning, and like, oh well, I like every turn, I should have just let you tribute summon it and trap hold it. I think that would make this card significantly worse and unplayable if I had to pay a cost for this floodgate. So I'm just gonna replace that like name. I'm gonna have the exact same effect, and let's find a trash card that is bad. Emperor's Holiday. There, and it fits too. Like, okay, the Emperor is going away on something. He's shirtless. He's probably going to the beach. And if he's going to the beach, you guys can't prepare tributes for him. So yeah, that makes sense. So Emperor's Holiday, you get the old Mask of Restrict effect, and yeah, that's totally fine. And I think it's a good floodgate that's fixed. It's cool. So we're and look at this artwork. It's funny. I'm happy with it. All right, so the new Mask of Restrict. When a monster is tribute summoned onto the field, equip this card to it. That monster can attack or activate its effects during each of your standby phases, inflict 500 damage to the controller of the card. So it is essentially doing the same thing as Mask Restrict. It's just a one-time kind of removal, and it is now burning your opponent, and it is now preventing those card effects from going off. It's not as harsh of a floodgate. But I like it. It's restricting that card from attacking. It's restricting it from its effects. It's just a body in the field that is taking 500 damage until it removes the mask. So I like it. I think Mask of Restrict is fixed for this. Mask of Restrict, the OG, is a good card. It didn't fit the name. So I'm going to keep with the burn points, and let's move on to Mask of Weakness. Equip this card to a monster on the field. Decrease that monster's attack by 1,000. During each of your standby phases, inflict 500 life point damage to the controller of this card. So it can be used as a trap still. You're still equipping it basically to that monster. The owner of that mask is taking that 500 burn damage, so you are incentivized to equip it, and you're basically wanted to run into one of your monsters. But the 700 is a little too light. I used to play this card. I liked it, but masks should be equipped cards in some form, so I think that you could equip this onto them and then run into it. It's cool, but you do want to make sure you're getting over this because you're going to be burning yourself by equipping this Mask of Weakness onto another monster. So Mask of Weakness, we're just going to change it into an equip card basically, or a trap card that equips to a monster. And I think that's fine. Uh, Even if your opponent is running into you to attack, you can just sprout this on them for haha. Now you're down 1,000, and I think that's fine. We have other cards that boost you by 1,000, so this is going to reduce you by 1,000, and I will lose life points if I don't out it this next turn. Mask of Dispel. This is just going to change so that way it can be a spell or trap. So our official text can say select one face-up spell. Owner takes 500 points of damage during each standby phase. Spell or trap, and the opponent's going to take 500 damage. While this card remains on the field, inflict 500 damage to the controller of that card. So this allows a little bit more flexibility, and it does actually counter some of those other mask cards. So Mask of Dispel could be another face-down trap. Um, Instead of it being a continuous spell or whatever it is right now. But I think that is going to fix some of the issues. It can counter other mask cards. It can counter other face-up cards. Field spells count as face-up spells as well. So we just gave some field support. They're going to start burning. So it's a good card. I think it's gotten a lot better because of this. So Mask of Dispel, face-up a trap, or spell cards. I think you're fine. Mask of the Accursed, equipped monster can add attack and burns for 500. This is probably one of the weakest, but it is still burn. It is it's more situational than our new Mask of Restrict, um, with the exception of can be equipped to any monster, but it doesn't negate their effects. So this also would have to be an equip. I would want to make this as like an actual equip card. So just says that we'll make this card the equip, whereas Mask of Restrict would be more of a trap. So they both have their different niches. They're slightly different. They're different enough where I think that's fine. Mask of Brutality. For this card, honestly, I boost up to 1,000 attack and lose 1,000 defense. I think that's fine. The only change I would say is just pay 500. We want to keep it consistent. Paying 1,000 to just boost up 1,000 every turn is, I mean, why not just play Acts of Despair? Acts of Despair would arguably be way better if I wanted to do that. Uh, but I think this card could just be 1,000 attack, and it would see play if it was only 500 life points, at least in this time of period. Because I just don't understand why somebody would opt in to play Mask of Brutality instead of Acts of Despair. At least if we don't have this boss monster, the Mask Beast. The stat line is fine. It's actually great. But again, Konami just loves making ritual vanillas, and I don't understand why you could add all these cool masks and not do something with this cool Mask Beast monster. So here's my pitch. When this card is ritual summoned, add one mask from your deck to your hand. Once per turn, you may destroy one mask on the field in order to add one mask from your graveyard to your hand. This means you are able to reuse masks that you've used previously, even if it is the same one. And maybe we could add the clause of you cannot just use the same mask you destroyed or something along those lines. None of these masks are really brutal. Jinzo counters pretty much all of them as it stands. But playing masks beasts now lets you do and play out the one masks that you wanted. It's definitely not a meta defining card, but it has its gimmick and it now has a cool deck and it brings out a cool ritual monster that lets you play cool masks. And sometimes we just want to make cool things, and I think we did that with the mask set. All right, Revival Jam. This was a cool card in the anime. It came back every turn, and Yugi really had to outsmart his opponent in order to make this win. So I like it, and I actually give him a little respect for this one. But in the TCG, we have to pay a heavy cost of 1,000 life points just to bring this thing back when it gets destroyed by battle only. In the future, Treeproworn Frog basically does the same thing, just at the cost of not playing back row. How do we make these jam cards unique but not too powerful? Well, I'm gonna look at OG's Sinister Serpent. It comes out like a month later in the TCG, and it says during your standby phase, if this card's in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So we have the hand lockdown, but why not the field? So let's look at Revival Jam. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard during your standby phase, special summon it and face up defense position. The key difference is that it no longer requires life points, which makes it insanely better as more of a nuisance card, but really not that much more of a nuisance than Spirit Reaper comes out in a few sets. And if that's too strong, you could even put this card at a 0/0, and I still think it would see play just by removing that life points. Like, Destroyed by Battle was easily the most common ways to do it, so this card just coming back every turn, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, I feel like. And if you're playing the Jam Defender, then you can make sure that this card becomes that little guardian angel that's just going to get brought back next turn anyways, which I think is really fun. But just all they had to do is just remove the life point generations, and I think this card could have possibly seen meta play. And since it comes back, I mean, you could easily just like tribute summon it for like Jinzo or something, or something. Introducing Humanoid Slime, or with this new name, we're going to call it Humanoid Jam, as we do want to keep them in archetype. Humanoid Jam is now a level 5 monster that will read when this card is destroyed by card effect and sent to the graveyard during your next standby phase, special summon it in face up defense position, but this card has a 2500 booty. It still combos with Jam Defender with this name, as it can now take the assault with a big defense, but now your opponent can't remove it with spell and traps. They have to destroy its armor, they have to defeat this thing in battle. So we got level 4 Jam that can't be destroyed by battle, and we have its big brother, Jam Defender, Humanoid Jam, that can't be destroyed by card effects with a bigger stat line. So it gives them both their niche, and it gives me a reason why I might want to play this level 5 instead of like Humanoid Slime being a vanilla level 4 to bring out this next creepy thing. Humanoid Wormdrake and just Wormdrake. So Wormdrake, this artwork is nasty. Easily in a Labyrinth of Nightmare. We can actually keep this card as a vanilla. We don't have that many early reptiles, and as a fusion material, I think it's fine. Like we can have, it'd be a one of if I kept it as a vanilla, but I don't think it needs an effect. I think just keeping it as a one of and giving this next card a little bit of a boost, I think would be kind of cool. So let's look at Humanoid Wormdrake, and it's again another random fusion monster with no effect. So let's just make this when this card destroyed by battle. I'm sorry, when this card is destroyed by card effect and sent to the graveyard, during your next standby phase, special summon it in face up attack or defense position. Its stat line is relatively weak, but it can still be a major stall. We could do both be destroyed by battle and by card effect, but I think that's way too strong for early Yu-Gi-Oh! As we don't really have Compulse yet for another couple sets. So there's not, I don't think really any cards that are going to allow us to get that off the board. So it would have to be one or the other. And unless you just bottomless it on summon, you pretty much can't get rid of it unless you tribute summon it with like a lava golem. So like there's only like 2 or 3 cards that really do it, and both of those cards are actually niche. So it has to be only one. But we just basically made a bigger stall card. Similar to like Vampire Lord, it's basically the exact same effect, and he gets smacked down all the time. It's just arguably a little bit harder to summon, same effect. So I think it's fine with that new effect, and it's good. I don't think, again, I don't feel like it's gonna be any meta defining, but people would actually play this in that case where, oh wait, I really need stall. Let me play Splash Jams, and there we just buffed water support with like the Yumi and Legendary Ocean stuff. Like water decks now are really starting to focus. Hey, we can stall really well, bring out these big monsters, and we can play some burn cards in the back row. Like water burn slash stall, it seems pretty good in our format. So finally, we want to bring out Jam Breeding Machine. So, funny story, when I was first getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh, I actually built an entire deck revolving around this card, Wetlands, and Token Stampede. It was a mix of a burn deck, which was hilarious, but basically with this deck, I was able to bring out 2,700 attack tokens every turn that couldn't be destroyed by battle or card effect. I'm sorry, by battle. And if they got destroyed by card effect, I would just bring out another one next turn anyways. The deck was hilarious. It had its problems. It worked pretty well in Dueling Book, um, but it was not that great. But now I got because of that I got a lot of good insight on how this card and what the big problems were for this, and I don't feel like this card was ever really that good. The problem with this card is you can't summon monsters the same turn you get a slime token, and with like that clause, you don't even get the option of opting out of summoning a spawn token. So if I really don't need this token right here, I'm just summoning off 500 tokens on attack mode, and I can't do anything else about it. So honestly, an easy fix to this card is just make it optional. During each of your standby phases, you may special summon one slime token, and if you do, you may not summon any other monster this turn. You can still set, which is kind of cool, so that helps us flip up our like stealth birds and things like that, but it is giving us the option where I'm not just locking myself out of playing the game because I have this one card on the field. So that's a fix and right on itself. But I want to give this a little bit more because we just gave slimes their own support engine, so let's build off that. Slime tokens have the effect where they cannot be destroyed by battle. Okay, just like the other ones. I mean, we're just bringing out these little guys, and we can even throw them in attack position. Like they can only stay in attack mode if we really want, and we're worried about like just stall being too strong. But otherwise, if you have 3 slime tokens on your field, you may tribute them to special summon one slime monster from your deck. Hey, wait a minute. We just buffed up these other slimes. Okay, cool. Like I can play this. It's a little bit of a stall. It's weak if I need to, but it brings out enough of them. And if I have enough of these tokens, then I'm bringing out a bigger slime that's more of a pain in the butt for you. So I like it. Again, it's not meta defining, it's not game breaking, but it's giving me a reason to play these cards that otherwise wouldn't get any real love. With that said, guys, we went through a lot. Um, I really hope you've been enjoying these. This is the actual outro this time, and I had a lot of fun with this set. Gate Guardian is such a cool card. I've told you before that the Suijin was my first holo as a kid that I opened in a pack, and they have a special place in my heart because of that. The nostalgia is real. It's just a shame that Konami's never revamped these cards to give them the respect that they deserve. They were such a cool set in the show, and I just really wish that Konami would do something with them. And if they need ideas, again, I have a good idea for that. So again, if you guys can get me 50 subscribers on this video, I will gladly show you guys my 2023 version of Gate Guardians and what I think they could actually do and accomplish with what they are printed as of now and how we can fix them in the future. So again, guys, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you like this stuff and you want to talk more about game design, then just post in the comments. I read every one of them. And thank you all so much for the support. Peace out.